Today, just 7 weeks before the Iowa caucuses, Nikki Haley's scrappy campaign got a major endorsement from Americans for Prosperity Action, a super PAC founded by the conservative billionaire Koch brothers. And the group happens to have a lot of very influential dark money that has funded efforts to advance climate change denialism and anti-abortion activism and the National Rifle Association. So its endorsement and its dollars carry some weight in Republican circles. In a memo, the super PAC explained why Nikki Haley, citing internal polling that showed Haley outperforming Trump by 8 to 14 points in a matchup against Joe Biden in key battleground states. But while Nikki Haley may outperform Trump against Biden, before she can even get to that, there is Haley against Trump. A recent poll from Morning Consult shows her trailing Donald Trump by 54 points. Joining me now is Charlie Sykes, editor-at-large of The Bulwark and host of The Bulwark podcast. Charlie, thank you for being here. First, let me just get your thoughts on how important, how influential the Koch dollars can be to a campaign like Nikki Haley's.
Well, let's just start off by stipulating that it is still highly unlikely that Nikki Haley is going to be able to defeat Donald Trump. I mean, the 54-point hole is pretty deep. But having said that, this is potentially quite significant because, number one, it provides her with a good deal of money. It provides her with the organizational infrastructure that AFP brings. And also, it is a signal to other donors that she is the one person. She's going to be the last woman standing against Donald Trump. You know, and as Mrs. Bennett said in Pride and Prejudice, it will throw her in the way of other rich men. So we have been talking about the possibility of the consolidation of the field, that in order to defeat Donald Trump, the field has to consolidate. You can't have 8 candidates. You can't have 9 candidates. That's what happened in 2016. And now this sends a real signal that this has become a 3-person race and is about perhaps to become a 2-person race. It's still Donald Trump's to lose, but this is a significant move because the Koch network did not have to endorse. They see the same polls you just cited. They understand the dynamic that Donald Trump is likely to win this nomination, and yet they decided to get in right now and put a lot of their credibility and their resources behind this.
I think the consolidation piece is perhaps what's most interesting in terms of her ability to do just that. I was struck by the fact that in announcing their pick to get behind Nikki Haley, the super PAC had what almost sounded like an apology to the DeSantis campaign. I'll read an excerpt. Our thanks, this is as they endorse Nikki Haley, our thanks and appreciation to Governor DeSantis, who has been a tremendous leader for the state of Florida. We understand that some of the governor's supporters, including some who support this super PAC, will be disappointed in our decision. However, as the 2024 primary season heats up, we are entering a time period that demands choices. It almost seems like they're trying to do some of the work for Haley and bring DeSantis supporters over. I wonder if you think a DeSantis supporter is someone, and she has risen and taken away some support from DeSantis in the recent weeks, but they are so different as candidates and seemingly different on some key policy areas. I wonder whether you think it's possible for her to bring his 18% of primary voters over to her side of the aisle, as it were.
Well, that's the key question, isn't it? Because in order to consolidate, you have to get somehow to 50%. And that's not going to be easy because a lot of the DeSantis supporters will go to Donald Trump because they think of DeSantis as basically Trumpism without Trump. They might as well go with the real thing. But I do think that there is a sentiment out there, how big it is among Republicans who say, OK, let's just move on. You know, thank you for your service, Governor DeSantis. Thank you for your service, Donald Trump. But again, what's significant to me about AFP getting into the Koch network is how urgent they apparently believe it is to stop Donald Trump. And I think that's what I would focus on, is they see Donald Trump as a real threat to the nation and not just to the causes that they care about, because they've had some real significant differences with Nikki Haley on foreign policy. They're kind of a libertarian organization, and they have gone in a very, very different direction on a variety of issues, including aid to Ukraine. But apparently they decided that they're willing to put all of those differences aside because they recognize the urgency of now coalescing behind anyone who can stop Donald Trump. That's a statement. It's an indication that, if you squint just a little bit, you can see maybe what normie Republicans might do, and that Nikki Haley has now become, the chosen vessel, and she's really been showing a little bit of momentum, I suppose as much momentum as anyone, since that first debate. And this certainly will not hurt her in Iowa or New Hampshire or in South Carolina.
Yeah, and I think, Charlie, your point about the Kochs trying to effectively elect anyone that isn't Donald Trump is significant as we get some new reporting tonight. I think CNN got early access to the Liz Cheney memoir that is going to be coming out next week. We are going to have an interview with her, our colleague Rachel Maddow, on Monday night. But I do wonder whether there's an excerpt in the book that I'd love to get your reaction to. The CNN reports that Liz Cheney said George W. Bush sent Cheney a private message of support after she voted to impeach Trump for the January 6th attack. Now, on some level, that's not surprising. But why are Republicans like George W. Bush still withholding their public criticism of Donald Trump?
Well, Alex, we've been asking this question for 7 or 8 years now, right? When are Republicans going to say in public what they have been saying in private? It is striking. I'm going to look at the other side of that. When you think about the number of people from the Trump administration, the people who've worked most closely with him, his former chief of staff, his former attorney general, his former secretary of defense, his former national security advisor, all of whom are now very publicly and openly saying Donald Trump is not fit for office. He is dangerous. We cannot allow him back in the Oval Office. And you wonder whether or not, as this moment of choosing that AFP describes, will lead them to come out. I mean, I think we know what Liz Cheney is going to say, but Liz Cheney is going to be a unique voice to sort of pry some of those Republicans loose because, first of all, she's a Cheney. She's an insider. She is all out of bleeps to give. She has a great deal of knowledge of what's been going on, both in her experience in Republican leadership and in the January 6th committee. And she is going to spend, I'm thinking, the next year holding her fellow Republicans' feet to the fire and saying, do you really want to do this? Choose honor or dishonor. This is the moment of choosing. Do you want to go down in history the way that history will remember, say, Mitt Romney, or do you want to become, just another Lindsey Graham potted plant in Congress? So, I do think this moment of choice, Republicans have already made their choice. I think that this is Donald Trump's party, but what happened today is an indication that there are some folks who have considerable resources who are not just going to roll over. Now, of course, the question is whether that actually matters, whether or not the big money, the dark money, the billionaire donor class money actually matters anymore in the Republican Party. And we're about to find that out over the next few months.